Thousands there always begin by saying that this Mesmer was nothing more nor less than a rogue with an itching palm and a charlatan of the first water, but that our honest and great learned beings very soon saw through him and prevented his doing any kind of mischief. The more the learned beings of recent times of this peculiar planet are themselves personally, in the sense of idiotism, squared, the more they criticize Mesmer and say or write concerning him every possible kind of absurdity to bring him into contempt. And in doing this, they criticize exactly that humble and honest learned being of their planet, who, if he had not been pecked to death, would have revived that science, which alone is absolutely necessary to them, and by means of which alone, perhaps, they might be saved from the consequences of the properties of the organ Kundabuffer. There is no harm in remarking here that just when I was leaving that planet forever, precisely the same was being repeated there as had occurred to this Mesmer. Namely, on this occasion, an honest and humble learned being there, from among the beings of the community France, after persistent and conscientious labors, came across the possibility of curing that terrible disease, the spreading of which also had in recent times assumed a general planetary character. This terrible disease is called there cancer. As this Frenchman also made practical experiments, not in the usual fashion there, for the elucidation of the details of his discovery, other contemporary learned beings thereupon also manifested toward him that same particularity of theirs, to peck him to death. Possibly now, in your presence also, there already begin to be crystallized the data for the engendering, always in corresponding cases of the being impulse, of an indubitable conviction concerning this fact, that thanks only to the learned beings of new formation there, in whom there has already been implanted the mentioned particularity, namely of not failing to peck to death every colleague of theirs who does not do the same as has already been fixed by the abnormally established conditions of ordinary being existence established there, there will never proceed in the presences of the three-brained beings of this ill-fated planet Earth of yours what is called the sacred Antkoano, upon which, among other things, the very saintly Agiata Shiamash also counted. About this essence-loving hope of his, I chanced to learn during my investigations concerning his very saintly activities there. You, my boy, perhaps still do not know in what, namely the cosmic process of the sacred Antkoano, consists. This sacred Antkoano is the name of that process of perfecting the objective reason in the three-centered beings, which process proceeds by itself simply from the flow of time. As a rule, everywhere on those planets of our great universe upon which three-brained beings breed, the perfecting of objective reason can proceed in them only from personal conscious labors and intentional sufferings. The sacred Antkoano can proceed only in those planets upon which in general all cosmic truths have become known to all the beings. And all cosmic truths usually become known to all on these planets thanks to the fact that the beings of the given planet, who by their conscious labors learn some truth or other, share it with other beings of their planet. And in this way, all the cosmic truths gradually become known by all the beings of the given planet without any distinction. Thanks to this sacred process, intentionally actualized by our all-foreseeing common endless Father, it is foreseen that in the three-brained beings of the given planet, during the process in their presences of the fundamental cosmic holy law of Triamazikamno, the superfluity of its third holy force thereby obtained, namely the force of the sacred reconciling, should by itself crystallize data in them for engendering that something, which is what is called being egoi Taurasian will. Well then, this mentioned particular property recently newly fixed in the common presences of your favorites is that the functioning of their mentioned zoostat, or as they themselves would say, of their spiritual part, passes into that functioning of their common whole which properly proceeds during their completely passive state, that is, during their sleep. And during this sleep of theirs, the entire functioning of their planetary body continues to remain such as it became proper to it to be during their waking state. In order that you should better represent to yourself and understand the results flowing from such an astonishing psychic property, you must first of all know about two facts actualized in the common presences of these favorites of yours. One of these facts is produced in their common presence thanks to the existing cosmic law of self-adaptation of nature. And the other fact flows from the abnormal conditions of ordinary being existence established by them themselves, about which I have repeatedly spoken. The first fact is that from the time when, owing to their abnormal existence, there began to be formed in them what is called the two-system zoostat, that is, two independent consciousnesses, then great nature began gradually to adapt herself, and finally adapted herself to this, that after they arrive at a certain age, there begins to proceed in them two inkliazanik shanas, of different what are called tempos, that is, as they themselves would say, two blood circulations of different kind. From this certain age mentioned, each one of these inkliadzanik shanas of different tempo, that is to say, each blood circulation, begins to evoke in them the functioning of one of their mentioned consciousnesses, and vice versa, the intensive functioning of either consciousness begins to evoke in them the kind of blood circulation corresponding to it. The difference between these two independent kinds of blood circulation in their common presences is actualized by means of what is called tempo davlakshirian circulation, or, according to the expression there of what is called contemporary medicine, the difference of the filling of the blood vessels. That is to say, in the condition of the waking state, the center of gravity of the blood pressure in their common presences obtains in one part of the general system of blood vessels, and in the condition of the passive state in another part of the vessels. And the second fact, the fact ensuing from the abnormal conditions of the being existence of your favorites, is that when, from their very beginning of the arising of their offspring, they intentionally try by every kind of means, for the purpose of making them respond to these abnormal conditions around them, to fix in their logic Nestorian localizations as many impressions as possible obtained exclusively only from such artificial perceptions as are again due to the results of their abnormal existence, which maleficent action of theirs towards their offspring they call education. Then, the totality of all such artificial perceptions gradually segregates itself in their common presences and acquires its own independent functioning, connected only as much with the functioning of their planetary body as is necessary, merely for its automatic manifestation, and the totality of these artificial perceptions